All right, hello everyone. Good afternoon from sunny Frankfurt and welcome to the 8th edition of the Lufthansa Systems online conference series, Let's Talk About IT. I'm your host, James Liu. I'd also like to extend a very warm welcome to everyone who's watching the recording of this webinar at home. Our topic today is on aircraft maintenance, more specifically, the exciting world of MRO and CAMO, and how to turn the current crisis into an opportunity. We will start by looking at the impact of the crisis on the airline industry, followed by the topic of business process re-engineering, considering maintenance systems, processes, and people. Then we will discuss the importance of data in the recovery phase in the MRO CAMO world. After that, we will then open up the floor up to some discussion in the Q&A session. Before we begin, just a few housekeeping items. Please note that this Skype call is being recorded and will be available on our website after the session. Your microphones are muted by default, however, you are invited to post your questions and comments in the chat window throughout the session. You're also welcome to answer our polling questions that will pop up on your screen from time to time during the discussion. If questions remain open due to time constraints, you are welcome to get in touch with us directly, and our experts will be happy to have a discussion with you afterwards. So joining me today on the panel, we have Alex Tripolin, our Senior Consultant for CAMO and MRO topics here at Lufthansa Systems. Alex is an aircraft maintenance engineer with almost 20 years of airline maintenance experience. Prior to joining Lufthansa Systems in 2017, Alex held various roles at Transaero Airlines in the engineering and material supplies departments. He is also experienced in MRO CAMO transformation projects across different parts of the world. Hello, Alex.
Yeah. Hello, James. Hello to all our participants. Very happy and excited to have a discussion today.
Very good. Our next speaker is Carlos Diaz, our CAMO MRO consultant here at Lufthansa Systems. Carlos is an aeronautical engineer with over 10 years of airline maintenance experience. Prior to joining Lufthansa Systems in 2017, Carlos held various roles at several maintenance organizations in Latin America, being responsible for different functions from planning and engineering to academic training of mechanics. He has been specializing in digital transformation for CAMO MRO structure in different regions of the world. Hello, Carlos.
Hello, James, and hello to our lovely audience. Happy to join this session.
Very good. Just a little bit about myself. I'm a management consultant here at Lufthansa Systems. I have 15 years of experience in the revenue management, network planning, and scheduling areas in airlines such as Qatar Airways, Virgin Australia, and Qantas, before joining Lufthansa Systems here in Frankfurt early last year. So let's get started, shall we? Now that we've introduced ourselves, let's find out more about our participants. We have a quick poll just to find out who's on the call today. Please have a look on your screen and pick the description that is most similar to your role now. I will leave this up for maybe 30 seconds for people to respond before we move on. Have some movements going on. Okay. Very good, very good. Okay, seems like people are a bit shy. I'll wait for another 10 seconds and then we'll move on. right, so it feels like we have a few people from the CAMO MRO management side, and we have a couple of consultants also here with us today. All right, very good. Let me come back to the presentation file. So what's the current situation around the world right now? I think unless you've been living under a rock, you will know that the airline industry is going through a bit of a crisis. Prior to the pandemic, worldwide airline capacity was to increase by 3.4%. However, year to date for July, capacity is now 65% below last year's levels, and passenger demand is expected to fall by almost 55% for the year 2020. 14,000 aircraft has been grounded in the first half of 2020, and the World Tourism Organization is forecasting the loss of tourism activities to be equivalent to 5 to 7 years of growth. Like I said before, the industry is definitely in a crisis as a whole. A wise man once said, in times of crisis, people are generally blind outside their immediate necessities. But is being blind the best way to deal with the crisis? What do you think, Alex? Do you agree with our friend Albert?
Yeah, James, thank you very much. And I think definitely nobody can disagree with Albert Einstein, the greatest physicist from all ages. And that's actually representing the current situation in a very correct way. Because of crisis, all organizations, including the CAMO and MRO part of airlines, we are shrinking. And that's kind of a very quick steps we need to do in our organization just to survive. But nevertheless, I think it is also an opportunity for us, for CAMO and MRO organizations, to just stop, breathe, and look back. Because actually, as from your slides, also the aviation industry was growing very fast. And what does it mean for the maintenance and MRO and CAMO organizations? That generally means that we've been in a firefighting mode, only to get airworthiness, get aircraft flying as soon as possible to facilitate all needs of our network, to facilitate all needs of our customers, of our passengers, and we never had even a chance, I would say, for last 10 years to look back and understand how we actually functioning.
Yeah, since aircraft time is so hard to get, right? Spare aircraft.
Yeah, exactly. So on one side, the CAMO and MRO organization now received a bit of time to look of how we are doing our business, our part of a job in the airline industry. And what I, from my experience, can see very often, that almost in 30% of organization, we have a situation which is represented here on a slide, but we are using two different systems for a maintenance. It could be divided by the fleet types, it could be divided by the roles and responsibilities. Like, for example, some fleet are managed in one IT system, maintenance and engineering system, the rest of the fleet in another, and all that stuff is actually surrounded by a lot of different Excel sheets, and with the transferring information by retyping it from one system to another, or it could be on organizational and responsibilities level, but for example, for airworthiness control, one system is used. For purchasing and procurement and supply chain management is another, and again, the flow of a process somewhere interrupted, and we have our people to retype some information from one system to another. That's definitely not the way how it's supposed to be in an organization that's somehow related to the engineering, but first of all should be organized. And now it's a really good time to look at that, also in a light of savings. What's the main question now everywhere? It's a savings.
So, sorry, Alex, can I just go back to what you were saying? You were saying that in the world of maintenance, you could have different systems in between different fleets.
Yes, exactly, and that's very often because again, coming back to this situation that the maintenance and engineering usually don't have enough time to develop themselves internally. They just serving the needs of airline, and when airline is decided to move forward to the new fleet, very often for this new fleet, the new system is somehow introduced in an organization, but unfortunately, very often it's not implemented to the full extent, and because of the timing, because of a lot of constraints, the system is taken as is without looking at the processes, at the connectivity to another systems, at the interfaces. And we end up with a situation that we have one system which we need to pay some license fee, another system which we need to pay some license fee. A lot of people just doing the retyping from one system to another system which we need to pay a salary.
That's incredible, yeah.
That's a reality very often, and I'm very happy to hear from our participants today if they do have a similar situation or they not, and I will be very happy to hear what they not. But unfortunately, again, from my experience, it's about the 30% of maintenance, CAMO, and MRO organization have those issues. So by taking a step back, looking in a current situation, or especially in a shrinking environment, we cannot just cut some bits and pieces and by that create even more mess, because it will be again not the laminar flow, but to use that momentum when we have less maintenance activities, less activities in general, to really define our needs, understand our gaps, perform some workshops, and understand if it's possible to adopt the current system to facilitate all needs. Maybe we can get rid of one. Maybe we can define the better way of using of existing environment and actually became the more efficient. That's the very key word for today, the efficiency.
Yeah, surely that's going to make people's lives a lot easier as well, right? Like when everyone's working on the same system, there's no conversion and
exactly. You're absolutely right. It will make a lot of tasks easier, and not only our employee life easier, but the clear control of the situation and clear background and foundation for a decision making. However, that's not an end of a story, unfortunately.
Okay.
On other like 40% of airlines, within the CAMO and MRO for sure, I'm working only with CAMO and MRO part. Even if we are using a one system and it looks nice and shiny from outside, unfortunately internally, and guys, again, hopefully all participants will confirm that, internally in our departments, the maintenance departments, the airworthiness control departments, we do understand that some processes are slightly or somewhere highly broken. And see here on the picture,
highly broken. I like that. Yeah. Highly broken.
Completely broken. And here in the picture, you can see that we have a process step number 1, 4, 2, 7. And that's actually the question. Where's the others? Is Alex have some problem with the math? Because after 1, we're supposed to have a 2, after that 3, and only after that 4. But unfortunately, again, historically, when something new was implemented, we at the MRO and the CAMO world, let me say, we didn't have a time to really implement it from A to Z to see all opportunities in that process and all problems we potentially can have, and understand all gaps and create the smooth line process. We just firefighting and fixing an issues. And I will tell to you and again all participants from industry probably will also agree with me. Engineers, we are very highly educated in engineers, and what the environment, the CAMO and MRO environment, which is very highly regulated, was teaching us, like from the first day we started our career in aviation, that we need to have a safety net. And by the years, when those processes are growing, we having some issues from quality assurance, we having some remarks from authorities, and so on, so on, so on. And usually what we are doing, we are building the safety nets. We are building one safety net. Okay, this process is maybe causing some problems and not working really correctly. Instead of looking back to the process and questioning each and every step, were three easy questions actually. Why we are doing that, who's supposed to do that, and when it should be done. We are kind of mentally agree, yeah, okay, probably we have some, maybe we can have some issues here and there. Let's put the safety net, like from process step number 2 to process step number 4, but somebody else will be checking our result. And then again, the next time the airworthiness controller or authorities or wherever the controller is coming, and we found some issues, what we are doing? We are creating one more safety net. So after the process number 4, let's have another one to recheck what have been done on the previous steps.
There's a lot of duplication and patchwork going on.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what I'm very often facing. And also there's a growing of a technology. Everybody like aiming to go paperless. That's a trend now, the paperless maintenance.
Yes.
But somehow, again, it's a lot of circumstances, a lot of issues around. I'm not saying it's something bad, it's just happening and we should accept it. But the process to go paperless, for example, or implementation a new feature, new understanding, is dropped somewhere in between, and actually the result is completely different. Instead of going the paperless, we are generating more paper which is not used anymore. So we're generating some product, and we don't have a receiver who is interested in that product, because that person may be already like one step forward, and he can look in the system, he don't need any paper anymore, but we still at some point are printing those papers, filling those papers, and trying to archive it.
It sounds easy, right? Like to go paperless, but I think everyone would have some sort of experience on that transition, because everyone's, if you come from a world that is very paper reliant, yeah, I mean, people always feel a bit safer with that piece of paper on their hand.
Yeah, exactly. That's again in engineers' DNA. We do like paper, and we do like love safety nets. That's really up to 50% of what we are doing. We are filling in papers and building a safety nets.
But how can that be done now, like to improve the efficiency?
Yeah, that's a lot of problems around that. And there is no just a solution, okay, guys, everybody should do this as Alex said. No, that's not working like that. We need to understand in each individual airline, in each individual organization, what are the steps now, what are the authorities' requirements, and so on, so on. But please, I'm not talking only about going paperless. I'm talking about the general processes, now we have in a time, and actually we also have in a resources, our people, to look in a situation, to adjust our processes, to make them more linear, regardless which system we are using, if it's a fancy maintenance and engineering system, or if it's just Excel sheets. That's a decision of airline, but for processes should be working normally, and that's a very good time not only to shrink organization, but also think about our resources, our people, how they can contribute to the change of organization.
Understand.
And for that, I have this slide with a scary emoji, if I'm correctly pronouncing that.
Yes.
Yeah. Again, I want to talk to everybody, and we are in a CAMO and MRO part of airline. We already facing the big challenges. The organization are shrinking, and our colleagues are actually losing their jobs here and there, and that's all around us. And we are scared. It's normal. People are scared if I will be the next one who will need to leave my organization. And because of that situation, people actually trying, which I really can see now in a different organization, people are trying to create kind of silos, even breaking the processes even more. Like to have something really unique in his particular position and his particular hand to show the management that they cannot fire this particular person, otherwise the entire process will be, entire process
to
will
protect their
be,
jobs and make them indispensable from that process that they've created.
Yeah, exactly. So their time for a change, it's now. And regardless which fancy software, which technology we will have behind that, without we're working with the people, without the involvement and support from all levels of our organization, we will end up again with a slide number 1 from my part. But we will have somehow halfway implemented system, halfway implemented processes, and so on and so on. So we should always take our people to the journey, and now it's a very good time to develop the new skills, to actually, because of the shrinking, that's definitely that the responsibilities of each individual position will be changed, and we need to do it a smart way. Not just only saying, okay, before that I had 2 planners, for example, now my operation is down to 50%, so technically I can get rid of 50% of my manpower in the planning department, which is 1 from 2, and that's it. But later, in the next step, when we will start to grow, will we be able to just bring another planner and get him to that level of understanding of our broken processes, which are sometimes not logical, to get him up to speed and allow us to start operate a bit more. I think that's not the case. So we definitely need to shrink. We definitely need to reduce.
We're saying that airlines need to resist that urge to just cut without thinking.
Yeah, that's a very correct wording. So I would say not a cut without a thinking, but the smart cuts. We need to cut something as soon as we clearly understand the process flow, the technology behind that process, and how we see ourselves not only today in a crisis, but also tomorrow. This tomorrow can happen maybe in 1 year period, maybe in 2 years period, but it's definitely will be tomorrow. And only the organization who used that opportunity, uses time for re-preparation, for rethinking of how they are doing, will survive and will continue our operation.
Very good point. Very good point.
Yeah. Thank you. So that's actually all what I wanted to say right now. I'm really looking for a discussion at the end of a session.
Yeah.
That's the question to audience. What do you think is most important for CAMO and MRO transformation in your eyes, in your organization? Is it a system, process, or a people? Please vote.
I'll give it 30 seconds for people to vote, see what people say. Is it the system, the process, or the people I think is most important in the transformation area?
Yeah,
There's no right or wrong answer.
Some results. We have already some results.
It's still moving. It's still moving. So I'll just wait for another 10 seconds. A lot of people are participating. So, all right. All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Let's move this. Let me show you the results. Wow. Majority of people, almost 80% of people say people are the most important.
Yeah, James, I also agree with the audience, and maybe because I was a bit more emotional on the people topic,
Yes.
because system is a system where people is a people. I really like all professionals working in that industry.
Yes.
What I can say here, for sure, people are important, system and the processes also. It should be really tiny defined combination of all those three factors, three approach, individually tailor it over for this particular organization, for your particular organization, for my particular organization. Mm-hmm. And that we can develop during the change transformation activities in organization. That's not no any correct answer on that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So you're saying that you cannot ignore any of the three.
Yes, exactly. You can have a brilliant people which will be working with the hammers, and that will not help in yeah,
very good.
In the current century. We usually use electrical tools.
Yes, yes. Thank you very much for that, Alex. Just considering of the time. So now that we know what we need to do, the question is how do we do it? Carlos always talks about the importance of data, that it's a crucial part of the managing the recovery. Carlos, do you want to elaborate on that, please?
Yes, thank you, Jimmy. Let us talk on the focus on data. Out of the intervention from Alex, we know there needs to be a closure of the gaps between the processes. We need to involve the people. We need to do it systematically, considering also the system that we have. So what we want to consider is 3 main points. Expedite and reliable decision making. It's important that we can, out of the data we already have, and by closing these gaps, we can do reliable decision making that helps us, mostly in this case, in this particular situation during the pandemic. Then we, out of that, of course, we want to connect the already existing saving measures, cost saving measures, with more efficiency. And we want to use this time, to utilize this time in order to reduce our dependence on manual processes. So that's three main points where we can focus right now. What do we need to consider for doing that? Well, on the first hand, it may sound very logical, but we do need to consider the quality of the data. Remember the old saying, trash in, trash out. So whatever we put into the system, if it's not of quality, we're gonna have the same amount of low quality in the results. Then we want to think about the availability of the data. I think Alex mentioned it when he talked about the silos. I think it's a chronic problem across all airlines, not just for MRO and CAMO, that we have this silo thinking. And the owner of the data thinks that this means really owning it and not sharing it. So the availability...
Yeah. People withhold important information so that they are in a position of power, no?
Absolutely, absolutely. And when we talk about closing gaps in the process, in the broken processes, first step is to share data, because at the end it's an overview for the whole value chain, and the data comes from 1 to B and gets transformed, and this transformation of the data is actually what adds value. When we have that figured out, that's the very, very foundation of what we need to consider when we talk about data. We need to start seeing our processes as work steps where you can really find patterns. Yeah, if you can find patterns in your work steps, in your processes, you can start automating them. What do we mean by automating? We mean really getting all these standard work steps that you may do out of the equation of a daily business, of a planner, of an engineer, of a manager, and putting it into the background and opening the scenarios for a real management by exception, when you really have to take all your gray matter into the business and really start analyzing stuff.
Yeah.
And the fourth aspect to consider, I would say, is the forecasting capabilities. This brings many benefits. There are many use cases where you can really start already implementing forecasting methodologies in order to not just go into the shop level on the production side, but also on the strategic level. Let's take.
Sorry, Carlos, when you say forecasting, do you mean that, anticipating when things are going to break down and when things need to be fixed? Is that?
That's part of it, yeah.
Okay,
well,
okay.
You have that one aspect, but you do have the other aspects that are maybe not as tangible as that. Let's take when it's gonna break, something's gonna break, for example, but also when you are gonna get low on some stock in your inventory, for example.
Right, okay. Availability of parts and things like that.
Yeah. So you can go all the way from operations to the supply chain, to the warehousing, to all the strategic decisions you can make in between. And it also helps you to actually get on the contractual basis with providers, for example. But this is, again, the very, very foundation of it. When we can start looking at very particular use cases, I've picked one that's maybe a bit controversial, maybe the right wording for it.
Oh, we like controversial.
And it's AOG. We have CAMO and MRO processes all over an AOG. It's because we need this aircraft on ground to be fixed and to be put into the operations again.
Possible.
As soon as possible, and that's always the most important indicator, time.
Yes, I'm speaking as a commercial person.
You're speaking as a commercial person, so yeah, we understand your needs, but we on the maintenance side and the CAMO side not always share the same objective. The best scenario for us will be to have all the time in life to do the maintenance.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So you see here in this process a very highly simplified AOG workflow, but it's already connecting all these broken or these gaps that may be seen in some airlines, in some OCCs. When the fault is identified, the first thing you should do, or we should do, is to actually analyze or troubleshoot analysis on the MCC, the Maintenance Control Center, or whatever you want to call it. And as you see, this is a sequential process. There's step 1, step 2, step 3. But when it comes to data, it comes back and forth. Data is always flowing in and out of these processes. It may seem sequential in nature, but the data is flowing all around. It's like looping, and you get this. These sets of data that allow you to make decisions in an iterative way. And the idea behind this, the idea behind integrating CAMO and MRO processes is to try to automate some workflows in the background. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So where can we start? And this is just an idea. This is really thinking out of the box on what we can do and what we can start doing right now during this time. You can start thinking on when you ask yourself, is it an AOG or not? Yeah, you can already have work steps in an automated way working in your background that help you as a CAMO engineer, as a CAMO planner, to really check if it's an MEL or if it's a critical part that means that the aircraft needs to be grounded. This usually takes place manually. So you go to a database and you search for your ID code of the failure if you have codified failures, and you start.
Not everyone has codified failures?
Not everyone has codified failures.
Okay.
And not everyone has these codified failures actually connected to what you need to do on the recovery measures part. And that's why I put that in yellow. If you start connecting these dots through thinking on the level of databases, you can easily connect a fault code with X recovery tasks. And in the background, this automated workflow is just pushing you this information into a dashboard and telling you you may be wanting to plan these tasks ahead. Yeah. On top of that, you can say for this task, historically, we see all the data you have from the MRO, from the production. It has taken 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever it takes. And X quantity of this material is needed, these parts are needed, and you start connecting the dots also with other parts of the process, right. Like staffing, the right skill set. Do you have the right skill set? Do you need to fly a mechanic maybe to the place where the aircraft is on ground? Do you need to move parts there? Do you have a warehouse there? You start asking all these questions, but...
And you're saying that these can be automated?
Not the whole decision-making process of it, but at least the pushing of the information you need to take these decisions.
Right,
you can really automate that, yeah.
So make it like into a checklist of things that you need to do if things happen.
Absolutely, you can have this checklist, but you can also have this checklist in concordance to actually what needs to be done. One aspect here, and this is the last one I want to talk about this workflow, it's the ETR, the estimated time to repair. You may find in some OCCs, there's an AOG, then MCC calls and say, okay, we have an estimated time to repair of about 5 hours. Yeah, and after the 5 hours, MCC comes again, Ops is planning for these 5 hours. After these 5 hours, Ops is gonna say, okay, we are having this aircraft again on the grid, and it can be operated. And then MCC comes and, oh, you know what, ETR, no, we need another 10 hours. So
not uncommon, can I say?
Not that uncommon, and that's right. And if you have these automated work steps in the background, you can really optimize the way you do this analysis, to make it more reliable and not to affect the whole value chain of your operation.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times when we see these types of delays, right? Like, if it's a maintenance related delay, I mean, it's about how long it's delayed, but a lot of times it's not just about how long it's delayed. It's the fact that whether that information is correct or not. If you tell me 5 hours, okay, we'll plan for 5 hours. That's fine. If you tell us 10 hours, with 15 hours, we'll plan for 10, 15 hours. But then the most annoying ones are the ones that keep extending. Right,
Absolutely.
Go for 5 to 10, or maybe it's down for 2 days, it's completely gone, because it presents a planning issue for the rest of the company as well. So,
absolutely, it does affect the whole process chain and even the whole value chain, and we're not aware of that. That's the point on being aware of the integration of the process and being aware of the quality of the data you deliver. And this is, of course, talking about business rules of existing processes. But let's go to the buzzwords. To the buzzwords when you come to talk about data. It's inevitable to talk about big data, artificial intelligence. But what's the pragmatic way for us in CAMO and MRO to tackle this? To really make use of the methodologies that are already available in the market, are already available on the use case definition of it. I prepared just an example on how aircraft health monitoring could look like from the, let's say, architectural perspective. It's very high level, as you can see. What we would expect is if you see the aircraft here having a failure or having like a fault signal, you could expect it to transmit it in flight or on ground into a centralized data warehouse, could be the cloud. And this data warehouse would then communicate with the health monitoring system, which then would try to analyze out of the existing rules within this health monitoring in order to see, to assess what needs to be done. Do you need an AOG when it lands before the inspection takes place? Do you need maybe a change of a part you can do in the next station?
So this is all about anticipating the needs, basically.
It's all about
like planning ahead.
Yeah.
Planning
and then
ahead.
You start asking yourself, what can I analyze? Yeah, you can analyze fault trends, for example, not just in real time as I was just talking about on my example, but also on the historical part of the data. And you can start asking yourself, when is the optimal time to repair or to change a part? Of course, all in concordance with what the regulation said, and
yes,
of course with your maintenance plans in place. You can start asking some very critical questions like, should I see how my maintenance intervals are suitable for my operations? Let's take Indonesia, let's take Mexico, for example, where there's a lot of volcanic activity. What's and you have already a lot of sensors built in your airplane. Why don't we take all this information we're getting from the operation in such an environment where you get a lot of volcanic ash and see if the intervals are suitable for that kind of operation? And let us consider that for our maintenance plans, right?
Yeah, that's definitely a very good point, but I'm just mindful of the time. Also just a quick shout out to all our participants. If you have any questions, the text box is open for you to join the conversation with any comments or any questions that you may have whilst Carlos is presenting. Sorry, go ahead, Carlos.
Yeah, gonna accelerate a bit the pace. I was talking about AOG prevention with real-time condition assessment, and we can talk about the digital twin for simulations, which it's very important, I think, and it's going to be the future for all the airlines if we do it correctly, that we have this digital twin to simulate different maintenance scenarios, but not just that, also to go into the aspects of the asset, how you utilize this asset that you're flying, and you get all these commercial aspects or the financial aspects into the equation as well. So it's very important to bear that in mind. And this is my last intervention. I just wanted to leave some food for thought on regards on how we can synchronize better the data between two very important parts of the value chain and parts that really interact with each other on a daily basis, and which the operation is very flexible. It can change very fast. Well, first step in this case is CAMO MRO and the flight ops part. Let us share data. Let us share relevant data. Burn down the silos. That's very important part of the message. Let us optimize all our planning functions through better forecasting, but let us share that forecasting that we do on the operational side and the maintenance side. And the quick win here is actually just synchronizing both schedules. For doing that, we have a cooperation with our friends from Lufthansa Technik. Please bear in mind, in November, I think at the beginning of November, we will have a webcast solely focused on talking about this kind of synchronization.
That's a topic in itself, right? Like, the synchronizing of schedules. I mean, when I was in scheduling, there's always so many different versions of the same schedule, and it's good that you're going to delve on this topic a lot deeper in the future. But just in the interest of time, I think we will probably open up the floor to is there anything else that you would like to cover, Carlos, before we move on?
Well, no, I think it was all just the key message. Share your data, focus on integrating your processes, invest in forecasting, and start using AI. Get rid of this fear we usually had from AI.
Yeah.
That's all on my part. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Let's start our Q&A session. So we've had a few. Actually, here it is. So the first question: why has it been so difficult to implement data-driven automated processes and workflows in CAMO MRO? Is it difficult? Is it a bit difficult, Carlos?
Well, it sure has some steps you need to consider. It sure has a level of difficulty where you need to assess and address it as a big project. Of course it has, but I don't see it as a very out of this earth kind of project. I think the main problem has been actually the integration, like the mindset within our organizations of not sharing data, this silo thinking. This does not does not allow us to see which kind of opportunities we are missing by not tackling these kind of projects together. And that's the case. I think these kind of projects are not owned by one part of the process or one domain within CAMO and MRO. It has to be tackled from a very high level part of it, and it's a very strategic level. So I think we need more discussions regarding data governance within the organizations. Who owns the data? And by owning, I don't mean not sharing it, but really owns the strategy of the data within the organization. And by answering these kind of questions, by having these kind of discussions, we start talking about what we can actually do in practical terms, in the pragmatism of the whole picture. We sure think it's too expensive, but we shall see it as an investment. Out of the use cases I presented, I think the idea is to know that you can always find a use case where you can support cost-saving measures. So you may want to use that to internally sell your project.
Understand. Thank you very much for the answer. Next up, we have another question. I think this one's probably more suitable for Alex. How would you recommend to start a restructuring assessment project in any MRO CAMO structure? Alex?
That's a very complex question, and to answer it really properly, I think I will need to have one more hour of conversation. So I will try to put it very short. So I would say we need to start with analysis of the current situation. And in analysis, from my experience and the logical thinking also, I think I'm a very logical person actually, we need to ask ourselves and answer a few questions. And the most important one, when we are starting to understand our processes, why we are doing this or that, why we are doing each step, what's added value in which step. And you will not imagine.
Because we've always done it this way, Alex. We've always done it this way for 20 years.
Yeah, exactly. That's very often. And even if we have an answer, we always done it like for 20 years, it's already good. From time to time, I'm receiving an answer, even we don't know. We don't know why we are doing that. So it's written somewhere in our procedure manual, which out of last 10 years already were bigger than Britannica encyclopedia. And that's it. So from a easy questions to the more complex one. So first of all, why? And second, what is the added value of each particular step? If I'm doing something, if I'm putting the page of a paper from my table to the table of my boss, to the signature, what's our added value? What actually he wants to? I'm expecting he will be signing, but we also need to understand what he is signing, for what he is signing. Can it be proceeded without that, or what? What he will be checking if he is checking?
Yeah, understand. Okay. Another one of a question that we received, not just on LinkedIn, but I think this is a question that was applicable in some of our other webinars as well. We are in a time of crisis now, and everyone's saying, oh yeah, we can do some things to overhaul and to redesign and to improve efficiency. However, they all require investment and resources that a lot of airlines may not have, maybe due to reduced work hours or just basically people being fired. How do you tackle this situation? And I think this goes to both of you, Alex and Carlos.
Yeah, let me then start. Exactly, that's the difficult times. No question about that. We all understand if we look outside from a window, we already can recognize it very fast that it's difficult times. And yes, there are some investments. And I'm not saying here that we need to really go down and invest the billions and so on. First of all, we need to use this time, and maybe some people which are not involved currently in a maintenance process or engineering process, we can find internal resources, which definitely cost some, but I don't think that much, to understand our processes. And when we are talking about the CAMO and MRO requirements, we always should think about for how much does it cost for us, actually, for example, unscheduled engine replacement, if it's somehow caused by our incorrect process. Because, for example, we have an issue in engine oil consumption monitoring. And by that, we are removing our engines a bit faster than it was expected, a bit earlier. So how much does it cost compared to like internal analysis of a business process, reassignment of a business process? That's not comparable the prices.
So you're saying that whatever investment that the companies are doing now with committing some resources to actually overhaul the processes and the systems, it's going to be worth it, is what you're saying. Exactly.
It will bring a large savings. Yes, we need to invest a bit.
Understand. Yeah. Very good. Carlos, do you have anything to add?
Well, I see it very similar to Alex. I think it's the main thing is to focus on what will add value in terms of cost savings or not. We all know how our processes look like, and we all know where we need to maybe adjust something. Maybe it's time right now to do it. Of course, we are on reduced staff. We need to consider the investments, but if this is something that will bring cost savings in a sustainable way for the next years, and leave us in a situation where we are more prepared for these kind of situations of crisis, then why not?
Yeah, okay, understand. That's very good. Here's a question that's a little bit, I'm not going to say controversial, but sensitive. So with almost 2/3 of the world's fleet grounded, does that mean that 2/3 of the world's MRO and CAMO organizations will be gone? Carlos?
Well, it's a good question. I don't think you can answer something like that with direct mathematics, like saying 2/3 of the fleet is grounded, 2/3 of MRO CAMO needs to go. I do really think we need to stay focused on what the future may look like. Definitely, there are times of crisis right now, and we may not be needing resources right now because the fleet are grounded. And of course, you do need to do some maintenance tasks while they are parked, the aircrafts, I mean. But this does not have to do with the full usage of the organization. So you need to consider that. But in terms of the level of development that you need from your skill sets, the level of knowledge you need from your maintenance planners, your engineers, your technicians, it does not make sense just to shrink. It makes sense to do it in a very focused way, considering what you expect from the future.
And that's what Alex was saying before, right? Don't just cut without thinking. Like, think of where you can save, and think of how best to manage the resources. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's define it as a smart cut.
Sorry, say again.
Let's call it from now the smart cut.
The smart cut. We can make it into a hashtag, maybe.
Yeah.
Smart cut. I think we have time for just maybe one more question before we have to go to the end of the session. Let's pick one here. Okay. So, all right. I think this is a good one for Carlos. We have the problem that many process owners do not want to share their data. Would you recommend a unified data strategy, Carlos?
Well, absolutely. I think you need someone to objectively assess how the strategy of the usage of the data in your organization should look like. And this cannot come from just one part of the process or just one part of the business, because it's going to get subjective really soon. And that's why I always talk about these unified data strategies, or what you may call a data governance strategy, that really tells you how you use your data within your organization, why you use it like that, and the kind of investment you're wanting to do in order to make the best use of that, out of that data. And this on a very objective perspective, which allows to see the whole picture, the high-level picture, the overview of the whole organization, and not just one-sided view of things.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you very much, Carlos, for that. With the time that we have, I think thanks for all your questions and the lively discussion. I think, because we only have a couple of minutes left, I would say here that any questions that any of our participants that still have, please feel free to contact us directly via our emails in front of you right now, or via LinkedIn. We are definitely more than happy to continue the discussion. We have to cut this short a little bit because of time. Also, a quick spruik about the Lufthansa Systems offering in terms of consulting in the areas of not just MRO and CAMO, but also in network realignment, ops control, customer confidence recovery, and IT security. If you enjoyed the webinar today, I'd just like to highlight that all of our sessions are loaded online at www.lhsystems.com. We have conferences focusing on the challenges brought on by the coronavirus pandemic and some recommended solutions. We have covered a wide range of topics, including alliances and partnerships, ops control, network planning, revenue management, and artificial intelligence, to name a few. We're already planning a couple of follow-up CAMO and MRO sessions in October and November, including one that is in conjunction with Swiss Aviation software to do with AMOS in October. Another one in conjunction with Lufthansa Technik on the topic of MRO and flight ops synchronization. So once the data of these MRO topics are confirmed, they will be published on our social media channels, including LinkedIn, and we definitely hope to see you there. With that, I would like to say a very big thank you for the discussion that Alex and Carlos have had for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, James. Thank you, audience. Thank you, everybody who was here today with us supporting.
Also from my side, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. I think we're just running out of time a little bit, but it's just such a big topic. So again, please everyone contact us if you have more questions and comments, and please follow us on all the social media channels, including Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. With that, I bid you a fond farewell. Have a very nice day, and stay safe, and thank you again. Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye. Have a good day.